So I want to welcome everybody to the call today. My name is Michael Brown. I have another special call with a very special best-selling author that I'm really looking forward to this call. I'm very excited about it. And before I introduce my guest and my author, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about me and what I do. Again, my name is Michael Brown, and I'm a life coach. And what I do is I help turn the people to turn their dreams into physical reality. And you can find more about my coaching by going to my website at mikebrowncoaching.com, and you can get a free video e-course there to turn your dream into reality. And also, I'm an author of the book called You Are a Gift to the World, Blessings from My Mom, and you can get a free chapter of my book there by going to youareagift.com. So that's a little bit about me, and now I want to introduce my very special guest and author today. His name's Alan Klein. He's also known as Mr. Jolitologist, and he's an award-winning professional keynote speaker, a best-selling author who shows audiences worldwide how humor can help them deal with everyday trials and tribulations, as well as triumphing over tragedy. And again, he's the best-selling author of 19 books, including The Healing Power of Humor, The Courage to Laugh, Learning to Laugh When You Feel Like Crying, The Art of Living Joyfully, and Words of Love. His books have been published in 8 different languages with over 500,000 in print. And, with no further ado, I give you my friend and best-selling author, Alan Klein. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm terrific. Who were you talking about there? That wasn't me doing all that stuff, was it?
That wasn't you.
I don't know. Every time I hear someone introduce me, I go, "Wait a minute, I'm so young to have done all that stuff. I can't believe it."
Yeah, I mean it's quite an incredible, impressive resume that you put together here. I mean, I'm blown away by it. And, just to share with you guys, me and Alan were friends on Facebook, and we connected that way. And I called him and contacted him because, I'm an author as well. And I just called him and said, hey, man, he's a best-selling author, so he gave me some advice on, how to sell more books. So I want to thank you for that, Alan. That was awesome.
Oh, good. Well, if it helps, I always love encouraging writers, people to write, because I just believe we all have some wisdom that we can share with other people and help enrich other people's lives, and it certainly sounds like you're doing that, and it's something that I've done for years.
That's awesome. And, Alan, I see here that you call yourself a jolitologist, and I'm just curious to know, what is that?
Well, first of all, Mike, I believe you can be whatever you want. So I made it up, and therefore I can say I'm the world's only, because there isn't any other. And the funny thing is, after I made that up, which was way back in the late 80s, I belonged to the National Speakers Association, and suddenly there was a joyologist and a happyologist and an enthusiologist, and it just kept growing. But as far as I know, I'm the only jolitologist, and that came about because I actually have a master's degree in humor. It's a master's of human, Human development, but my thesis and my research and my work was in therapeutic humor. And because of that, there's a Greek word, gelos, G-E-L-O-S. So I'm really a gelotologist, but when I say that, people thought I made, that wiggly dessert, Jell-O. So I changed it to jolitologist, and that seemed to stick and kind of says a little bit of what I do.
Wow, that's awesome. It's very exciting. And, I know one of the things that me and Alan share in common is we both are certified laughter yoga instructors. I thought that was pretty interesting when you told me that, because I was like, oh, I've done that too, and It's
right.
really an awesome practice of just like laughing. I think the main thing is it's like laughing for no reason.
Right. So we can do it right now.
You do.
Woohoo!
and it's a wonderful practice to do. I know, when people look at it from the outside, they're often, it might seem kind of bizarre. It even feels awkward. I know when I first started doing it, I was like, this feels weird. Because you're faking laughing, and then it ends up morphing into real laughing, and then, you get all the benefits from it as well.
Right, because I just noticed when we did it just now, I had to take a couple of deep breaths in when I was finished. Yeah. So physically, even though it's a fake laugh, physically, right, I'm getting benefit because I'm getting more oxygen in my blood. I could think a little clearer. I'm clearing out my system. I didn't cough this time. Sometimes I cough when I do that, get that congestion up. So it's really physically helping me, even though I'm just faking the laughter. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I even noticed in what we just did right there is, I was faking it as well. And then at some point, I started laughing at your laugh. Like, that's what ends up happening. Like, you start to actually genuinely laugh just
right,
because you're hearing people laugh. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, laughter's contagious. And those comedians on TV or those sitcom comedies often have a laugh track because
right,
laughter's contagious, and people at home hearing the laughter start to laugh, even though maybe the skit they're doing isn't that funny. They hear the laughter and they start laughing and think it's even funnier than it is.
Yeah. Yes.
So just one of the tips I give people is hang around people that you laugh with, because inevitably you will laugh more and longer, and you'll feel better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one of the things that's coming to me right now, Alan, is I'm thinking. I know you speak a lot, and you go around and you speak to audiences, and I'm just curious to know, is there I know your primary message is around humor and laughter and using joy. Can you give us a little sample of maybe some nuggets that you share when you speak, to your audiences?
Well, all my programs go around the word LAUGH. Whether I'm doing 20 minutes or whether I'm doing all-day programs or 3-hour programs, I use the letters LAUGH. And the L is for let go, because we certainly can't laugh if we're upset, angry, frustrated about something. We can't laugh at it. So the first notion of getting more laughter into anyone's life is they need to start letting go of things that upset them. And so I have some exercises we like. If anyone listening to this is upset, get a balloon, blow your stress in the balloon, and then just let the balloon go. And when there's 500 people in a room and there's 500 balloons going around, it's quite amazing, and people just start laughing. Sometimes their own balloon would come back and hit themselves, so their own stress came back. Sometimes they get hit by other people's stress, but it's a way of playing and joking and kidding around to show people they can learn to let go and lighten up. And then the second letter is attitude, because it's really, the world is the way it is, and it's our attitude that makes the difference. And then the U in LAUGH, I cheated a little, it's YOU, that you, Michael, or anyone else, you're the only one that can let go or change your attitude. No one can do that for you. And then the G is go find some humor, because it's all around us. And I illustrate some of the 14 techniques in my book, The Healing Power of Humor, like having props or toys around so everyone gets a clown nose, and we do a process with that. And then the last letter is H for open your humor eyes and humor ears, because humor is really all around us. One example, I was in a laundromat, Mike, and a couple of months ago, and there was a sign on the wall that I really got hysterical when I read it. And it said, when the machine stops, remove all your clothing. Takes a little while, but and I just looked at the sign and got hysterical with laughter. So, there is just humor all around. When we're stressed out, we don't see it. But in my workshop, that's 25 words or less, kind of what I teach. And if it's a longer workshop, there's more interaction in those letters, and shorter workshops, there's less.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I'm glad you brought up that analogy of like being in the laundromat, because I think, one of the things I'm thinking about, and I know you're a pretty happy and joyful person, but, just being a human being, I know, you must get upset or angry at times at...
How did you know that? How did you know that? You must be psychic.
I am. I'm psychic. I'm psychic. I read your mind. And, what I'm thinking about, like, for our listeners, Alan, like just the everyday grind of things, like whether you're in traffic or you're just upset with a spouse, or, like those moments, like where you're at the DMV. Oh, my God, Alan, I was at the DMV the other day, and the line, I live in Los Angeles, the line was outside of the DMV, and it was like going around it, and I had to go because, like, my tags, they expired, and I didn't pay attention, so I had to go, and I had to wait in line, and I looked at that line, and I was like, and it was hot outside, and I said, oh, my God, and I just could feel myself getting angry. I'm like, just like, why am I here? So I was wondering, do you have, like, things like that, like where people are just in their day-to-day, and they're just like, oh, my God, I'm in traffic, or I'm in the line at the DMV, or...
Right. Well, there's all kinds of things, and I like props because they're a quick way to lighten up. So I probably would have had a clown nose in my pocket and take it out, and other people around me would start to laugh. If I didn't, I would start chatting with other people around me, because we're all kind of in the same boat there, waiting online. If I try to turn that around with like more positive energy, I'd go, great, if I wasn't here, I'd be at my desk inside, and it's such a beautiful hot day, and look, I'm getting a suntan for free while waiting online at the DMV, this is incredible. Some people pay lots of money to get a suntan, and here I'm going to get one for free. I mean, there's all, it's not the situation, it's how we react to that situation. So, I can't tell people what to do to find more humor, because, I do give some suggestions, but everyone's funny bone is really in a different place. And so what might amuse you, might not amuse me. And so you kind of have to look for that yourself. Whenever I go to a doctor's office or anywhere place I might be online, I make sure I have something I want to read so I can take my mind off the line, and I feel like I've accomplished something and enjoyed myself by reading what I wanted to read. So, some of those things are not funny. I can meditate. Maybe I didn't meditate that morning, so I can certainly meditate while waiting online. So what I'm trying to show you, Michael, there's all kinds of things that you can do, and it's really up to you, though. The L-A-U, the U, is really Y-O-U, to either find the humor or find some way to release that stress.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to, talk to you about is, obviously your books. You have 19 books in print, and I'm inspired by that personally. Like, just to share with everybody out there listening, like Alan's really worked at this. He's written many books, and he just kept at it. He's worked at it, and he told me the whole story about his whole publishing expedition, and that was just great hearing all about that. But what I want to ask you is, what inspires you to keep writing like that? Like, what is the thing that has you keep writing the next book and the next book? That's a lot of books to write.
Right. Well, my first book, The Healing Power of Humor, happened because my wife got a terminal illness and passed away when she was 34, and she had a great sense of humor. And, it wasn't a great time, certainly, during the 3 years we knew that she had a terminal illness, but she continued from time to time to use that humor. And so after she died, and it was Norman Cousins' time, he was talking about how he cured himself with humor. Mm-hmm. So I just went, and started investigating the therapeutic value of humor and saw how it helped me get through my wife's demise and wanted to share that with the world. I had this burning desire. And so, there were rejects for the book. It was a long writing process. I had the book half written, and they changed editors on me, and he wanted me to rewrite the whole book. And, I have my own little things going on that's not so great either, but I thought I have this burning desire to share how valuable humor could be. And so I just continued through all of those setbacks and not let that get in my way. And and then it just developed. There was another book after that, and then another book, and I had some books went out of print, and I had to get the rights back. But all along, the reason I keep doing it is because of letters that I get from people, or people that come up to me in my workshop and say, "Your book changed my life. Your book." I got a letter from a teenager who said, "One quote in your book saved my life."
Wow.
Another woman who had been violently raped when she was 12 wrote a letter to me and said, "That happened to me, and I'm now in my 60s. She said, "For 55 years, I never told anyone about it. And then I found a quotation in your book, and she said that uplifted me. It was a quote about taking back your power. She said, I took back my power because of that quote. And she said, you have totally changed my life." And I just know that because of those letters, there must be other people that are not even writing, but all the struggles with, say, writing that one book, just that one letter from that one person helping them so dramatically change their life is why I do it. And the same thing in my workshops. I could have a plane delayed or canceled. I remember last year I had to spend the night at the Denver airport. Travel's not always so great, but if I could help one person in my workshop, the whole thing is worth me doing it. And so that's why I do it.
And Alan, thank you for that. And I know you mentioned a couple of times about your workshops. I don't think we talked that much before, like when me and you talked about. I'm interested to know about your workshops. Like what do they entail? Are they a day long? Are they 2 days?
I used to go all over, mostly California actually, doing one-day workshops, continuing education workshops at universities. But that's kind of changed, and mostly now I do, longest I do is 3 hours, or most of the time I will do a keynote speech, like at a conference. So I will open a conference, or I will close a conference to send people off on a high note. And I work a lot in the healthcare industry, so these are not like workshops open to the public, although I'm doing one in Oklahoma City, and it's for the public. It's sponsored by the University of Oklahoma, but it's for the public. But usually I'm brought in by, say, a hospice or a hospital. There's a school food service association in outside of Chicago that's bringing me in to open and close their conference. So that's the kind of thing I do. Okay, and you do well, I guess you were kind of saying it that sounded like a process. You earlier when you said you had everybody has a balloon and
they blow into the balloon and there's 500 people in, and they release it. So you do you do processes like that.
Yeah, there's processes. I have a lot of stories. I open with the story of my mom, and it really gets a great laugh. I only use stories that illustrate what I'm talking about, so it illustrates her having a very positive attitude and a great sense of humor. So I'll do that. I have the story of my wife dying, and there are often tears in my workshop, and then I transition to a funny story that happened, and so then people start laughing again. And then to illustrate my point, I want the audience to get involved, so yes, we do some processes.
What is the story of your mom, Alan?
You want a free workshop here, I can tell.
You got me curious. Like you said you share the story of your mom. Like, what's the story of your mom?
Oh, the story of my mom. I'm drawing a blank right now. How weird, because I tell this all the time. My mom, when she was about 90, she would have a van that would take her to the doctors every time she went to the doctor, and then when she was done, the van would come back and pick her up and take her back home. So one day she's at the doctor's office. It's 6 o'clock at night, and they're closing the office, and the receptionist said, "Mrs. Klein, I cannot let you wait here. Doctor has an appointment. I got to close the office. But I'll tell you what, I'll call the van. I'll make sure they're coming. There's a pizza place downstairs. I'll take you down there. I'll buy you a Coke, and I'm sure you'll be okay. Just wait for the van there." So my mom went downstairs and waited and waited and waited, and the van never showed up. So my mom went up to the guy behind the counter, the pizza guy, and said, "Do you deliver?" And he said, "Yeah, lady, we're a pizza place. Of course we deliver." And she said, "Great, I want a pepperoni pizza, and I want to go with it."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it's an example of changing your attitude, of finding humor in a situation. And
did they do that? They did that, right? They let her do that, and they took her home.
They said, they can't because of insurance, but
okay,
the van finally showed up. But
okay.
It's just a great story. I have a photo of my mom on the PowerPoint, and it's really kind of relates because everyone in the audience has a mother and or had a mother, and it's just a great opening. And I can tell from that story how good the audience is going to be, if they're going to really be with me or not. Just from their reaction to that story.
I think it's a great story. That's awesome. I could just see it as you were telling. I could just imagine, your mom there doing that. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm just also curious to know. I do know you go around speaking, and how did you get into the speaking business, Alan?
Well, I said my wife died passed away when she was 34, and she had a great sense of humor. And so after she died out of business in San Francisco, I gave that up, went back to school to learn about therapeutic humor, and I was working at a school at the time, and they asked me to do a workshop, which I did, put together on humor, and then somebody in the workshop said, I'm a nurse and we're having a luncheon, can you come and speak to us? And, we'll give you a free lunch. And I did that, and then I start going around to the schools doing those all-day workshops, and it just kind of grew naturally from one thing to another. If somebody was in my audience, chances are, someone in the audience would invite me to some other meeting to speak, and then all of a sudden this was all in California, that suddenly I got a job, someone heard about me, and I got a job in Illinois, and then, another state, and it just grew and grew and grew.
Wow, that's incredible. And I'm just curious, how often do you speak a year now. Like, how many times a year do you go around and speak?
Well, I'm kind of semi-retired, so I don't really market myself anymore. So
Okay.
it's not that much, although sometimes it comes in bundles. In a couple of weeks, I'm in Oklahoma doing 4 speeches in different cities there. So I don't, I'm doing more writing, and I also I have a second home with a garden that I like to go to, and I'm cutting back. I'm getting up in years, and travel's a little harder these days. So I don't, I used to be on the phone marketing and cold calling. I don't do any of that anymore. I just, someone calls me, they've read my book, or they've seen me online, on the internet, my information. That's how I get my jobs these days. So I don't push it. If it comes my way, great. If it doesn't, it just gives me more time to write my book and get my message out to the world.
And Alan, speaking of your book, what is your latest book? What's your latest book that you've written?
Well, there's a couple quotation books. The Art of Living Joyfully has 500 quotations about getting more joy in your life. There's a book that just came out for Valentine's Day. It's also a quotation book called Words of Love, Quotations from the Heart. And then the book I'm working on is called You Can't Ruin My Day. And it's about how people can take back their power and not let, or take back, not let other people or other situations ruin their day.
That's right. And you're writing that now. That's not actually out, right? Because you told me.
No, my estimate, you probably won't see that in the bookstore for a year and a half, maybe.
Okay.
I'm a slow writer, and then if I get a publisher, that takes time. And but I'm writing it without a publisher now. Once it's written, I've got to find a publisher. Sure.
Yeah, I love the title of that. You Can't Ruin My Day.
Right. Don't steal it.
I'm not going to steal. I'm not stealing. And
just kidding.
Yes, and we just have a few more minutes here, Alan. But before we close, and one of the other questions I really wanted to ask you for our listeners, if you could tell them, what would you tell our listeners, who want to get their book published? What would you? And this is something I asked you. I mean, I published a book, but
right.
What are your recommendations? What do you say?
Well, when I first wrote my book, The Healing Power of Humor, I did 2 lists that said self-publishing and mainstream publisher. And then on each of those headings, I divided them into the positive things about getting a self-published book, or the positive things about getting a mainstream publisher, and the same thing with the negative things. And as soon as I looked at that list, my main goal was to get my message out to as many people in the world as possible. And so I went after not self-publishing, but getting a mainstream publisher, which I did get. And now The Healing Power of Humor is in 40th printing and 9th translation, foreign language translation. So the reason I bring that up is because I think you need to first determine what is your goal. I mean, some people just want to do a book to give as Christmas gifts. Some people want to do a book to, have it on their resume. Some people want to have a back of the room sales. So you have to determine why you want to write this book. And then it might lead you to getting a publisher or publishing it yourself. And by the way, today it's so easy to self-publish.
Yes, it is.
But what I find is a lot of self-published books are great, but a lot of them, people want to get the book out real quickly, and it doesn't really, to me at least, have a lot of content, or it's not a great book. And what I always tell people is, as a speaker, you can give a bad speech and people will probably forget it after a while, but a book is forever. And so if you're going to write a book, make sure it's the best you can do.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds more than fair. I think that's you've actually made me think about my whole approach to writing my book after you told me. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got a publisher? Like what maybe briefly tell us, like, what does that do? Is that just submitting your manuscript to many publishers, or what does that look like?
Well, even this was years ago, but even today, if you want to get a mainstream publisher, you've got to do a proposal, because they're going to give you a bunch of money to write the book. So they want to make sure you can write. So you need to do a proposal, and that's often 80 pages or more, and it's a couple of chapters of the book, it's an outline of the book, it's what other books on the market are like your book, why you're the one to write the book, what is your platform, which means like how many people follow you on Twitter and Facebook, and how many radio shows you've done or TV, and how many newspapers and magazines have written about you, and all of that stuff that's going to help sell books. And then your marketing plan, how you're going to market the book, how you're going to make money for the publisher, things like that. So it's pretty comprehensive. And then you need, I think, to sell to a major publisher, you need an agent, because when proposals come in from just writers, it doesn't get as much, doesn't have as much credibility. And if you have an agent, they will see, they kind of put their stamp on it and say, this is a good proposal, or may help you to develop the proposal. And the publisher sees it's coming from an agent who's making money by selling books, that they put their stamp on it, and it's okay to look at this proposal and decide if they're going to publish it. So it's a long process, but I think changing people's lives, it's worth it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And you definitely have been doing that, Alan. I just want to acknowledge you, and and then bless you. I just want to, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I realized I wasn't aware. I know we talked a little bit, but I wasn't aware that like your writing career started from your wife, passing away. And I just like, wow, that's just and I just
the writing and the speaking, because I have no idea what I'd be doing now if that didn't happen. So we never know in life. Has its twists and turns, and where it will take us.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge you for taking something that I know must be extremely painful for you, and turning that around and like launching, just like turning it into something that's giving back to people, and it has given so much back to people. So I think that's just awesome, and I think you're awesome, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for being on the call today, for being on the show.
Thank you. It's been great.
And we're gonna bring it to a close and wrap it up here now. But before I do that, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to say whatever you want to say to the audience in terms of like where they can get a hold of you on your website, or if you want to give your phone number or any other contact information out.
Right.
This is going to go out to a lot of people. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can. Whatever you feel comfortable giving out, you can give that information out so people can get a hold of you.
Sure. Well, the best way is to go on the Internet, look at my website, which is www.allenklein.com, and they need to spell that right. It's ALLENKLEIN. So www.allenklein.com. And then my email is also pretty simple. It's Allen, ALLEN, at allenklein.com, ALLENKLEIN.com, Allen at allenklein.com. That's email, and that's the simplest way to get me.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I don't know, I know I had been to your website before, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to say this for you, but you got a lot of free stuff there, I think. You got some videos there, and you got some articles.
Yeah, there's some videos. There's lot of articles. Some people like to post those articles on their blog, and so long as I get credit, that's okay, or in newsletters. There's also all my books, and there's samples in each one of those books of what the book's about, so they can read that. There's some research stuff about humor that they can look at. There's pretty much some good stuff there.
Awesome, and then they can get a hold of you there if they want to book you for a speaking engagement too, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. Again, the email alan@alanklein.com. It's right there, and somewhere hidden there is my phone number, but mostly meeting planners. It's for meeting planners.
Okay. Perfect. Well, Alan, again, I want to thank you so much for coming here and being on the call today and being on the show, and it's been a pleasure and an honor, and I'd love to have you back again. Let's do it again.
Great, particularly when the other book, You Can't Ruin My Day, comes out.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do that.
Okay, thanks, Mike.